All right. What's going on, folks? I was going live on Facebook, and I think that doing that got me a little bit uh got me in a little bit of trouble. Not that I was just saying too much, but I was just maybe positioning things in a way where people were getting the wrong idea. And Facebook is kind of close. So here I'm on YouTube. I'm on YouTube now, and I'm here to try and break some things down, get a sense of what's going on, uh, try to understand a little bit more about what is really taking place in America today. Because I'm getting in debates. I'm still debating people on Facebook. Trust me. If you say something on Facebook, I'm not gonna go live, but I'm gonna go in with the facts, and that's all I do. I try to go with the numbers, and I'll be like, "Hey, you show me the numbers, and I will take those numbers and let's discuss those numbers based on what they're saying." A lot of times, people get the wrong impression of numbers because somebody presents a certain statistic to them in a way that they don't, that really doesn't really give them the real truth of what's going on. And when you're misinformed with the truth and you don't know how to read the numbers and the statistics and the rates, and you might get the wrong impression of how things really are. So, with that being said, let me begin by saying I don't really pay attention to politics that much, as far as party lines and who you align yourself with. I always usually find myself somewhere in a fringe group because my ideas are, like I said, they're not based on what the majority says or what people around me says. I'm just looking at it the most objective way possible. I think the only way you can get to some type of mutual understanding is if you address things objectively. Like, how can we both come to an understanding that we both can agree this is what it is, and then we can go from there to the next degree of a thing, like they do with science and everything else, like they do with math and logic. That is how you progress. So that's how we start. What is the problem? So let's start asking ourselves, what exactly is the problem with black people? What is the problem with the black idea, the idea of black in America? What is the issue? Because if you think that the issue is police, brutality and black people getting killed by the cops, that's a very small part of the problem. It's the most uh, visually compelling piece that you can see, because when you look at that, especially when you see something that happens in the streets of Minneapolis, like what happened to George Floyd, when you see a police officer doing that, it's visceral. You can feel it, and it makes you want to react, and it makes you want to ask, okay, what is going on? Is there really an issue with the black people? Is there a racial issue in America that we have to look at? And when you look at that video, nobody that looks at that video can say no, because they've never seen another race of people or anybody else in that position like that. You've never seen a white person just snuffed out in 8 minutes and 46 seconds slowly with the cop having a grin on his face. So when that happened, it shook a lot of people. It shook them to the point where they couldn't just sit down anymore. They got on the streets, and they couldn't just be quiet about it anymore. You start seeing more open conversation about race in America and how the effect that it has on people. And you see people being more open and honest. And that is always a good start, because before, I feel there was no honesty, there was no openness and sincerity about what was going on. The truth wasn't coming out. People weren't saying, yes, there's a problem. And it was black people, white people, the same way. They weren't saying it. They had a reason to be silent. And they had a reason probably to lie to themselves and say, it's not a problem. Black people are just making that up. Those white, liberal, progressive people, uh, all these people that you want to label as whatever they are, they're just making that up. They have a reason behind what they're saying, and they're making something out of nothing. It's easy to take that narrative when it's easy to do, when there isn't evidence of the contrary staring you right in the face. And that's what's happened in America, and that's where we are in America. And a lot of people don't know what to do at this point. Because if you are genuinely scared of the police officers, then you really do have a problem every day, because you don't have the protection that other people have, even if it's the fear that you have in your head. But if it's a fear that people are saying now, yeah, this is real. This is something that is really affecting people. This is something that people can really, find themselves in a bad position from, regardless of whether they did something to deserve it or not. And in a lot of these instances on these videos that we're watching, these people don't deserve death. Regardless of what they did, the extent of their rap sheet, how much of a plight on society they are, if you're saying that they should die, then you're talking about rewriting the laws of America. As simple as that. If we're saying that walking through, let's just say he was a criminal, the guy that was jogging, Ahmaud Arbery. Let's just say he was being a criminal and he was scoping the place out. He wanted to rob it. At what point do you meet a person like that who is clearly unarmed, clearly is not capable of any type of lethal threat? What do you say when that man winds up dead? What do you say about that? What do you say when somebody that is trying to pass a $20 check, let's just say, play devil advocate, he's trying to pass $20 check and he ends up dead, not from resisting, not from fighting or being combative, but just from lying down with his hands cuffed to his back? Is that a person whose rap sheet you want to bring up? And if you do, how worse, how much better is that than saying a girl deserved to be sexually assaulted because she put herself in that position situations prior? Oh, she was a hoe before. She was a hoe before, so she deserved to get raped. Oh, no, you can't say that. What? You're victim shaming. She was a hoe. She can be a hoe all she wants to. That's what you hear, right? She can be a hoe. She has every right to be a hoe. And if she's a hoe and says no, then guess what? You're a rapist. I agree with that. She can be a hoe all she wants to anybody she wants to, but the moment she says no, the moment she tells you no and you progress, you are a rapist. You understand? Nobody would disagree with that. You find very few people that would say she deserved it because she was a hoe. And you find those people wouldn't be respected. That opinion is shocking. But you take the same idea, you take the same narrative and you say, oh, he was a criminal. You see what he did before? He held a gun to a woman's stomach, a pregnant woman. Okay, well, I guess kill him. I guess choke him out right there. Is that the new law that we're writing? Is that what we're saying goes? Because if you're saying that that's okay, then you're also saying that the guy that raped the woman isn't a rapist because she's a hoe. The moment that he says no, the moment she says no, the moment that George Floyd was being arrested and put in custody as an innocent, presumed innocent man, the people became murderers. Just like the rapists, the people that have progressed in the girls became rapists. You become a murderer when you go beyond what is reasonable, when you go beyond what is known to be right and proper. When you start to do that, you are no longer working within the confines of a law. And regardless of the person's past who you are inflicting this on, it doesn't change the fact of what you are. So I can't understand why people can say, "Oh man, his past does concern me." When it comes to how he was murdered, when it comes to how this man was murdered unjustly by this cop on video, his past does concern me. You got to think about what you're saying. But the black man doesn't get the same type of sensitivity. They don't get the same type of apologeticism, if that's a word, as a white woman. You see, because of how we are painted. So that's a little bit where I want to go next. How the black person is painted. Okay, when you think about the idea of a black person, when you think about how a black person is thought of in America, there's two different ways. How a black person thinks of himself, and then there's the way that a person who is not black thinks of a black person. So if you are black and you understand what it means to be black because you are black, you embody blackness, then you're going to have an accurate representation of what black is, but it's going to be accurate to you. And then you're going to have somebody who isn't black, somebody who doesn't live the black life, who experiences the black life from a different perspective. They see it on TV. They see it when they pass, a random black person on the street. They see it when they have a black coworker or a few black coworkers. But when you see somebody and you both can recognize that you're different, or you take on that idea that you're different, you're going to treat each other different. You're going to act different. You're not going to be the same you that you are with somebody that you're more comfortable with. That's not familiarity. So there's a black idea that is pushed on black people. That idea is negative a lot of times. So if there's a black idea that's negative, and me as a black person am representing blackness, then I'm representing negativity. Through no fault of my own. The negativity that I represent was projected on me by somebody that wanted a certain class of people. You see? They want a certain class of people. And my blackness, the blackness that they push, fits that mold. This class is easy to control, easy to manipulate, very docile. That's the type of people that authoritarian rulers like. They don't want people to ask questions. They don't want people to feel equal. They don't want people to feel empowered. They don't want people to be free. And they want as many people in this group as they can They want as many of us as they can. And they don't care if we're black. They don't care if we're white. They don't care if we're any color, as long as they can get as much of us as they can. Now, you give them a reason to care if you're black, then they're going to take that opportunity. If you want them to care about you being black, they will. Now, you have to be aware of the fact that these people care about you being black. So you have to operate under that pretense, under that idea. These people care that I'm black. But you can't just subject yourself to that particular enemy. You have to be aware of all the enemies. Because the people who are white, the people who are Mexican, the people who are Indian, the people who are of other nationalities that find themselves in the same position that you can find yourself in because of your blackness, those people can offer you defenses also that you need to be aware of. But if you think the whole time, my blackness is why this is, my blackness is why that is, then you are growing more and more ignorant to the reality of the world, that as a human being, you are going to suffer with more things than just being black. And people are going to attack you for more than just you being black. So you have to be aware of everything. You have to be aware of what your blackness means to them. You have to be aware of what your blackness means to you. And that brings me to one more point I just want to talk about before I leave. What is blackness? Because I've been thinking about reparations a lot. People have been talking about it lately. Reparations, getting reparations for slavery. And our ancestors who did build this country for free. And they didn't get anything in return. And they were tortured and beaten and raped. And they were indoctrinated and lied to. And their religion, their very fabric of their history. Think about religion. Think about what religion does for somebody. And the fact that it's consecrated and the values instilled over time and allowed to grow. If a religion even is an analogy, if it just is an analogy, that story, that compelling story, and it's crazy. I really hated Game of Thrones, how it ended. And I thought it was so cheesy how Tyrion said, nothing is better than a good story. And I'm thinking, man, that's so whack. It's just like a cop out. A good story. What's a good story? Why is that important? And then I started thinking about it. Wow, wait a minute. If you can tell a good story, you can convince a lot of people to do a lot. You can do a lot in the name of that story. And you think of the story of Jesus Christ over the 2,000 years of his existence, how it has shaped history, how it has empowered an entire group of people to conquer the world. Think about it. BC, before Christ, AD, Anno Domini, in the year of our Lord, That's accepted all over the world. So that story was so powerful that it was able to take over the world. But guess who really didn't accept that story? Africans. And when Africans came to America, Africans had their own rich history, their own rich mythology, their own very rich, illustrious, very thought out religion. See, you think about religion, religions aren't just all over the world. People call things religions and they call this religion, but some of these aren't religions. Some of these are just histories, ways to say something, ways to tell you a story without giving you the most literal. You see, everything doesn't have to be explicit to work. Sometimes analogies and stories work better. And in Africa, these slaves had their own rich history, their own rich stories that were completely cut off. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of years of growth, completely cut off. It's crazy to even think about. So much lost. But when you think about how Christians benefit from the story of Christ, the story of Jesus, and you see how the white man can benefit from that book, and you see how when the Africans came to America, that was thrust upon them. They couldn't sing their own songs anymore. They couldn't tell their history anymore. History. What does history tell you? History tells you who owns what. History tells you where the billions and trillions of dollars that are here now came from. That's what history does. And people talk about, we don't want to rewrite history. No, the fuck you don't want to rewrite history, because if you did, you would be fucking broke. Okay? Because the only thing that's giving you the power, when I say you, I mean the people that benefit from the history. The only thing that's giving you is power is the fact that you can tell this story the way you tell it. And the people accept this story to be true. And if they can't accept it as true, then there's chaos and anarchy. But if you can sell them the dream, if you can sell them the idea, if the story is compelling enough to move them, then they'll do whatever you want them to do. And that's why Christianity is so important. And that is why Christianity was so important to be passed to the slaves. Because that rich history, I say rich for a reason, because riches and wealth don't come from banks. They don't come from the stock market, you fucking fools. Whoever believes that, not everybody. But if you believe that riches and wealth come from banks and riches and wealth comes from the stock market, then you're a fucking fool. Yes, you can skim off riches and wealth. Yeah, you can scam and make money in the stock market. But the real wealth came from the ideas. Yeah. It came from the ideas that people were able to create in their minds, right? How much money do you think it costs Mark Zuckerberg to come up with the idea of Facebook? How much money do you think it cost him? How much money do you think it cost Steve Jobs or uh, Bill Gates to come up with the idea of using windows and graphics to represent the information, and as opposed to typing it in? And how much do you think that costs? How much do you think it cost Jeff Bezos in his fucking garage to say, hey, you know what? The internet is a thing. So why are people going to the store when they can just post their item online and just ship it to one and the fuck another? How much did that cost him? No, it cost him nothing. It just cost him the amount of time it thought to think it up and the energy it took to make it a reality. And the rest is where the wealth comes from. So if you can tell a good story, if you can put a good idea together in America, you can make money. But if you think that the money comes from somebody writing you a check, if you think the money comes from you selling your stocks and buying stocks, you can get money like that. But the real wealth comes from the people who understand that this world is just full of people's imaginations. And their imagination creates everything that you see and you buy and you sell and you trade. And if you can fill your imagination with a good history, regardless of what the real history was, fuck real history. Because when you real history has been rewritten already. You want to rewrite history as if this history we have right now is the final ultimate history? No. This is the best we have. We don't know who the fuck these people were. I don't know the fuck Abraham Lincoln may have never existed. And whether he existed or not doesn't fucking matter, because so many people believe that he does that I might as well say he did. And until enough people believe that he doesn't, we're just going to say he did. But you can rewrite history. It doesn't change anything, especially if you're rewriting it for your benefit and to help you. You write the whole history book because it don't seem right anyway.